Hello and good evening everyone, another stream here from Checkered Flag Simsports and coming to you live from the ASRC Formula 3 Championship, the World Series, and today we've got one great event for you as we visit Europe for the first time, visiting the Red Bull Ring. And it's seen many changes since its conception in 1969. It was also known as the Austrian circuit, but today of course we know it as the famous Red Bull Ring, where we've seen plenty of action take place, many configurations during its history, and today's layout is no exception. Expect plenty of overtaking with lots of opportunities to slipstream and overtake your opponents, and the guys here today are ready to do battle. This is round 3 of the series for the 2022 season, and they are good to go. We've got a nice grid of 14 cars ready to do battle with one another, and only time will tell who's going to be able to take the mark and take the win here. We've had previous rounds take part. The last time we was covering this particular series was at Autopolis for the first round, and it was a victory for Vladislav Zenkov and Patrick Hanko, as we have 2 races in one evening. 120 minutes with a 12-place reverse grid and also a 30-minute feature race. So only time will tell who's going to be able to take victory here this time by, but it is all to play for. Looking at the calendar just quickly before we go into the qualifying, which is what is taking place now, let's have a quick look to see what is up in the next few rounds. So of course we've just visited or came out of Japan, where we went to Autopolis and then Okayama. Sadly we wasn't able to capture that. It's a great circuit, I'm sure the guys had plenty of fun there. But Red Bull Ring today, followed by Silverstone next week, and then we head over to Nürburgring before going down under to Australia for Sydney Motorsport Park and beyond. So plenty of racing action. If you guys do enjoy the series, all the links are available in the description for you, and you can catch up with the guys as and when you can. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to fill you in with the details of the series and get you on the grid as well. Of course, my name's Matthew. I'm going to be commentating from start to finish for this event on solo, and I will be operating the cameras and try to capture as much action for you as possible. And of course, if you are interested in Checkered Flag Simsports, also a link in the description for you as well. So before we go into qualifying, then we'll quickly run around the circuit, or sorry, we will run around the circuit once we get onto some of the faster laps, but some of the guys are currently out about at the moment. We have 10 minutes of qualifying still remaining before we go over to our first race, and the layout for this evening is 15-minute qualifying session, so we're about a third of the way through. And then in general, in terms of the way that the races work, we have our first 20-minute race. The first top 12 will be reversed as of the qualifying results, and they'll also get points for the fastest lap. 2 points in the qualifying session for fastest lap, and then the top 10 fastest lap will get 1 point for the first race. Then we go into our second feature race, which is 30 minutes long, and that is pretty much as per qualifying, and then the top 10 fastest lap, they will get 1 extra point. So plenty of ways for the guys to get up in the order and earn those extra bonus points if the need be. But besides that, it's pretty much tooth and nail, and obviously the most points will be available is your traditional way, which is winning the race. So let's quickly have a look, see who is doing what in qualifying then. We've got Patrick Hanko, who's currently on screen at the moment. He's got the pole position for the time being with a 1:16.631. That's your number 10 car and is for Royal Blue Racing, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is indeed. He's obviously won at Autopolis, so he is one to look out for from the top guys. And he's quickly followed by the 22, which is Peter Zubek in the other Royal Blue Racing car. That's of course the sister car with a 16.7. So very close between these two teammates. Clearly some sharing of data between them. Fingers crossed that will bring them good fortune. So Royal Blue Racing currently on a front low rockout. Then close behind we have Luca Martino. That is the 77 car and is Arms Zebra racing team. So very well painted car. One of my favourites on the grid. And looking very good indeed. In third place, he's just shy of 0.152 seconds from claiming pole position as he goes round on his next flying lap. Not purple in Sector 1, unfortunately. And then rounding out those top 5 positions, we have Sander van Leeuwen in the 21, and then Francesco in the 15 in 5th place. So very tight grid we've got here. Qualifying, in fact, all the way up into P8 is under 1 second from your pole sitter. So very good grid indeed. And Luca Martino just going around the corner very aggressively. Nearly held the car together, but it's going to cost him a bit of time in those last few corners. And it's actually a pole position there for Luca Martino. Well done to the 77. He's completely blasted the competition away, and it's a 1:16.615. In fact, the gap only down to 0.016 seconds from Patrick Hanke. So very close indeed there for the 77. But for now, he claims first place. And of course, we're expecting some of the guys to get faster as the race goes on, or the qualifying session continues as the rubber sets in and provides that extra tenth or two that's required. Patrick Hanko is currently on a purple lap, it seems, coming through to the final corner, and he's taken back pole position there. Patrick Hanko, 1:16.074. That's at least half a second faster than Luca Martino now, so things starting to really spice up as the qualifying session enters its second phase. Now we'll try and get an onboard lap with one of the guys as they go on their flying lap, who is currently on an out lap. We have the Pavel currently going on his current out lap at the moment. We'll try and go on board as best we can and run you around the Red Bull Ring. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities. We'll walk through those and some of the potential overtaking corners as well, or the best places to overtake for the drivers here this evening. Now Pavel is one of the guests for tonight, as it states on screen at the moment, so it looks like he's a new joiner to the series, and fingers crossed he can join in the future races as well, and the more the merrier. And of course I'm sure these guys love to have more competitors to race with. And we'll go on board now with Pavel at the moment through the onboard camera. This is located just below the air duct as we come into the final 2 corners here at Red Bull Ring, using plenty of curbing there, which is allowed of course, but maybe not that much on the exit there. So starting our first flying lap then. The first corner named generously after Niki Lauda, and it's going to be a sharp braking zone to the left-hand side. Avoid the yellow curb, which he absolutely clobbers. You'd want to avoid that if you want a nice smooth exit. This is a vital corner on the way up the hill. Every horsepower and extra kilometre an hour will count as you slipstream your opponent towards turn 3. Heavy once again on the brakes. You can brake quite late, and in fact he's unfortunately bailed out of that particular lap, so maybe we'll wait and see if maybe Luca is going to go on a flying lap. Yes, he is, so let's restart that particular lap and see if we can get a full lap of Red Bull Ring for you on board. So through Niki Lauda once again. Look at the difference here, not clobbering that inside yellow curve. That really does hurt your exit speed, and then slam on the throttle on your charge up the hill. Great overtaking opportunity coming up into turn 3, of course. Heavy braking zone. We've seen it in Formula 1 plenty of times. And heavy on the brakes again. Luca losing a bit of rear grip as the rear tries to come round, but manages to hold it and bring it back into line before smashing once again all the way down to turn 4. This is going to be another potential overtaking opportunity. A bit tricky though, because this right-hand corner here does not offer a lot of breathing room. You want to basically ride that left-hand curb as much as you can, use all of the track available, and then switch right back over to the right-hand side. This is a really tricky corner here, turn 6. You've got to go enter the corner as late as possible to make sure that you're not compromised on exit. And then same again here, although we had a bit of a late exit here from Luca, and that cost him a bit on the second part of the corner, but through turns 8 down towards sector 3, the last 2 corners, double right-hander, attacked that inside curb, and he's decided to bail out unfortunately on those last 2 corners, most likely because of that exit of turn 8, which we just mentioned. It wasn't the best, unfortunately, but we pretty much saw most of the Red Bull ring there. Going into that final corner, you've got to really watch the braking, because you want to get that done early. Let the car settle down before cutting the inside corner. It can get pretty hairy if you get too aggressive, and then you want to carry as much speed through into the final corner, and that would bring you across the start-finish line. As we watch Peter Zubek do exactly that as he comes through the final few corners, and that's a very exuberant entry to the pit lane there as he cuts through and down across the Austrian flag, or the road markings. And we've got a nice train of cars here on screen at the moment. They're all coming through turns 3. And this is going to be quite interesting to see how this unfolds, because, of course, slipstream will be available for the 2 teammates behind. We've currently got Francesco on screen at the moment. He's currently sitting in 5th place. He's just shy of 9 tenths, which is quite a large margin as he tries to hunt for that extra 10th. Of course, seizing those fronts will not help that matter. It looks like he's been able to break away from the guys behind. They seem to have run into a few problems themselves. And there's no personal green sectors for Francesco at the moment. He's going to have to do a bit better if he wants to improve on his personal best. The next guy ahead is Sander van Leeuwen in the 21. He just needs to find 0.046 of a second, being able to move up into 4th place. So not a lot in there for that particular position. Vadim Steblin for advanced competition now, on board with the number 2. So this is one of the official cars, I believe, for the league itself, which is ASRC. And they're sponsored by Advanced Competition. So let's see how he does at the moment. He's currently sitting in 8th place. He needs to find an extra 0.7 seconds to catch up to Valerio Ferraris, who's the next competitor ahead. So see if we can get a personal best here for Vadim. Nicely held, a bit of a wiggle there on the exit of turn 3, but he manages to tame the Formula 3 car, and they're now accelerating nicely towards the next sector. Slightly slower sector 1 for his personal best, so it's a 34.472 for sector 1. Now comes the tricky part through turns 5, over to the right hand side, through 6 and 7. There's a bit, I think we've got a bit of join lag, someone else joining the service. That makes 15 cars for this evening, which is good. And nice exit through turn 7 and 8. That's exactly what you want to see. Good placement of the car, but will it be enough to improve and go green? That is the question. No, it's not. Maybe that join lag might have caused that issue. And again, nicely through the last 2 corners as well. Even the final corner, a bit wide onto the curbing, but comes across the start finishing line now. Will it be an improvement for the number 2 car? No, it's not. It's a 118.028. Not a personal best, but this could be another opportunity here as he gets a bit of slipstream from the car ahead who's on their outlap. Not too sure who that is. Aggressive downshifts there from Vadim, who now gets demoted to 9th place, and it's not a strong sector 1 once more for the advanced competition driver. Now Luca Martino has just set a purple sector 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. He's about 0.5 seconds off pole position, but only 0.064 seconds off seizing second place from Peter Zubek, who is the sister car for Royal Blue Racing. So will he be able to bring it together in the final few corners? It's a slow sector 2 for his personal best as he enters the final corner. Sparks coming off the back of the car as we come to the start finishing line. Is it going to be enough though? Yes, it is. An improvement there from Luca Martino as he moves up into second place. He's just shy of 0.3 seconds from pole position as we come to the end of qualifying. So last runners now on circuit. Oh, big mistake there from Sander van Leeuwen as he goes into the barrier. There's fire from the Formula 3 car. Smashes into the barrier, and that's going to be a big incident. Luckily, no repair bills in the virtual world. He'll be able to reset and put that fire out instantly. But that was a big off. And we just caught that at the end of qualifying as well. So the last few cars that are currently out on circuit. The number 2, in 9th place. Coming through Sector 1, it was again a slow Sector 1 here for Vadim. Now, will he be able to bring it all together for Sector 2? It's the only car still out on track for the time being. No, it's still not a personal best. So whatever's happening inside the number 2 car, yeah, he's recognised that and decided to come into pit lane. So this is your official starting order, ladies and gents. There's no further cars out on the circuit. And of course they will have no further opportunities to do that. So we'll be soon going into our first race of the evening. It'll be a 20-minute sprint race with a top 12 reverse grid. So the qualifying, as you see it, from 10th through to 12th will be reversed. Unfortunately, there's no way to display that from where we are in terms of the overlay settings. But of course, if you bear in mind from where we are, then it will be the top 12 will be reversed from as and when I call them out. So the 5-minute session has officially started. Let's quickly run through the starting order with you then, if we can. Patrick Hanko did well to secure front row away from Luca Martino by just 0.3 seconds. Peter Zubek, the sister car, in P3, and then Francesco for the Arns Siebler racing car in 4th. Lewin in the Zenkov racing team in P5, followed by Pavel in the guest car. Valerio Ferraris in P7, and then Joama Fitas in 8th. Vadim Steblim in the advanced competition in 9th. Christian Olari Lepping in P10. Marcini Sokoliski, apologies for butchering that name completely for you. Victor Cabello in 13th. Alex Maloney in 14th. And then we've just got someone with the first name of Christian in 15 with Racing Matters Most. So 15 cars ready to do battle. Of course, plenty of slipstreaming opportunities on the circuit here today. Red Bull Ring, we have 3 danger zones in terms of slipstream for you, and I'm sure they'll do well to do so. Again, this is round 3 of the Formula 3 series for the ASRC World Series, Formula 3 World Series. If you are interested in joining these guys or being a part of the action, then all the links are down in the description. I believe they've got Discord, live timing, Facebook, and also a Patreon if you do want to support their servers and keep this racing action going. And we now wait for the 5 minutes to conclude, and then we'll get straight into the racing. Be interesting to see who's going to be able to take the victory home. Of course, previous victories again, Vladislav Zenkov and Patrick Hanko, both at Autopolis, took victory just 2 rounds ago. I'm not too sure who won at Okayama, unfortunately. I don't have that information with me. I believe, yes, I do actually. I now have that information. So let's see who's currently where in the standings, shall we? Because that's what this is all about. It's about winning. So Patrick Hanko currently leads with 44 points. He secured victory at Autopolis and then also a podium position at Okayama. So he currently leads ahead of Francesco in the RC racing car. In second place, 36 points for that particular gentleman. And Vladislav Zenkov currently sits in third. Obviously, he wins at Autopolis, 10 points available for the sprint race, and then he did well in Okayama, although a few issues in the first sprint race there. Luca Martino in fourth place in the standings with 33 points, taking victory in the second race at Okayama, so a lot of points available for that particular driver there. And then Gerald Batalla for Royal Blue Racing in fifth place with 32 points. Dramas Vitas with Toyota Gomesport in P6 as well. That's a tied place for fifth with 32 points. Of course, it then comes down to podium positions, etc. Hence why Gerald Batalla has the lead. And then Valerio Ferraris in P7 with 27 points. So a lot of close positions up for grabs here. Several of the drivers only within 1 to 2 points of one another, and of course it's got to be remembered that there are points for the fastest lap in qualifying and also in the sprint races as well. So it'll do well to score as many of those as possible heading into this particular race, and we'll see who is able to do so. Of course, with the starting grid the way that it is, it looks like a good race for Patrick Hanko, and he will do well, and also Peter Zubek as well. So it looks like we've already got a nice battle on our hands between those top three. The slipstream will make it difficult for the leader to get away and charge away into the distance, provided the competitors behind do not make any mistakes. And just before we go into the races, well, let's have a quick look at the schedule. So today, of course, Red Bull Ring, 11th October. Silverstone GP, the 18th of October. That's next week before heading to the final European round at the Nürburgring. So a lot of decent tracks here in the Formula 3 World Series. And then heading over to Australia, Sydney Motorsport Park, Melbourne GP, and then New Zealand for the final on the 22nd of November. Only a few rounds, but of course plenty of action still with double sprint races, or sorry, 2 races per round to be had. And if you are enjoying the stream, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps these guys get exposure as well as ourselves, and of course we want to support the league as much as we can. So if you are enjoying it, don't forget to give it a quick thumbs up. Now, only 33 seconds left in this session, ladies and gents. Then we'll carried over to the lining up of the grid, followed by a warm-up lap and a standing order. So it'll be up to same old Formula 1 style, similar to the real world, standing start, and we'll see who's got that clutch biting point correct. That's, of course, is a vital point of this race as well, is getting your starts correctly, making sure that you are able to get those tyres to dig in and propel the car towards the first corner in good time. As the warm-up session now concludes, and we should be able to go over to the racing very shortly indeed. Feel free to share with us any predictions that you have about the race, if you've been following the series with us or with the league itself. Any predictions for who's going to win this round or who is going to do well? Any surprise or drivers of the day? Let us know in the chat room now, and we will be sure to see how they do or check in on them as the race unfolds. And of course, in R Factor 2 Star, we have the very loud announcement from the race director to say that everyone needs to leave the grid. Would we have it any other way? No, we wouldn't. And the countdown now begins. Of course, fair weather here for the Red Bull Ring. No rain for this evening's event, thank God. And we'll be able to enjoy the full running of both races in dry running conditions. So full slicks available to the teams, and that's where the action really is. So some of the cars starting to line up now. So it's the last opportunity before pressing that grid button for the teams to check those tyre pressures, make sure they're happy with their setups. Of course, being mindful of parc fermé. Actually not too sure if that's a thing in this particular league, but if it is, of course, they'll have to be mindful of what they change. Ensure those fuel levels are set correctly, because you don't want to carry too much, of course. And just settle those nerves before starting that warm-up lap, which is also vitally important, especially for the man on pole, which will be Rigo in the number 12, because he, of course, was qualifying P12 at the start of this race. So it's reversed, that he now is on pole position where he should be, but now he's got the, of course, the more monumental task of keeping that entire grid behind him. 15 laps here at the Red Bull Ring for the first sprint race. So they're all going single file now. Great opportunity to warm those tyres. You see them weaving left and right. That's to put the tyre under load and under pressure, and makes them warm up much faster. And it's very important for the leader to make sure that he doesn't complete this lap too quickly, because he will soon find himself being the first man to go stationary when he lines up in that starting box, of course. So he needs to make sure that he's got as much temperature in those tyres as possible, because his, theoretically, are going to be the coldest when that green flag drops. So predictions coming in. Sanders will smash it. So that is the number 2 car, I believe. No, sorry, that's Vadim. Whereas Sanders, he's currently down in the order, I think so, for the start of this one. Yes, in 9th place. So very good to secure 4th place in qualifying. And hopefully we'll see him move up the order. Oh, and an issue here. An issue for our pole sitter. Rigo has pulled off the side of the track for some reason. Not too sure what's happened here. But the number 12 is stationary on the runoff area. That is disaster for advanced competition. Before the race has even started, maybe suffering from some technical issues here. And all the cars have disappeared, so not too sure what's happened here. So we've gone back to the warm-up session. Apologies for this. Not too sure what's happening. I believe maybe a driver has had a disconnection problem or something. Obviously, we don't have direct comms with the drivers or the race director. So for whatever reason, we've gone back to our 5-minute warm-up session. So now we just wait to hear from race control or from the server to see when we are going to go into the actual race session for you. Apologies for the delay. Of course, in the sim racing world, there are issues with servers and disconnections. Unfortunately, we all have to connect to the same server, don't we? And sometimes people do drop out. That's just one of those things that can't be controlled. And we are going over back to the race session now. So clearly, it must have been someone having some potential issues, and it may have affected the outcome of the race, which could otherwise be avoided. And so that's perfectly fine. We are going to grid up very shortly and restart once again. And we'll get this underway once and for all for you. Just while we're waiting for the admins to resolve their current problems, let's just quickly run through the starting order again with you. So Patrick Hanko securing pole position in qualifying, Luca Martino and Peter Zubek, Francesco in the RC racing car in P4. P5 goes to Sander van Leeuwen in Zenkov Racing. Pavel is the guest for this evening in 6th place, Valerio Ferraris, and then Juama Fintas for the Toyota Gome Sport car in P8. Vadim Steblin and then Christian Olari Lepping in P10. Marcin in the Scuderia Kappa racing car in P11, and then Guillem Rigo in 12th place. Victor Cabello in 13th, followed by Alex Melody in 14th, and then Christian, with just one name, just known as Christian, will be starting 15th. Of course, those top 12 positions will be reversed from the qualifying results, so please do bear that in mind. So Rigo in the number 12 will be starting on pole position, and then backwards all the way through to Patrick Hanko, who set the fastest lap of the evening. We are now officially in the race session once again, so just teething issues for this particular round here at the Red Bull Ring. As we wait for the cars to be placed onto the grid. Some of the cars now lining up and getting ready to go. And fingers crossed we will be able to get racing as we eagerly await the start of round 3 of the Formula 3 ASRC World Series. And yeah, we're starting our warm-up lap now. Once again, 15 laps for the first race here this evening, followed by a 30-minute race shortly after. A quick reminder on the details of the series. So the first sprint race, top 12 reverse grid as already mentioned, and then the top 10 will get a 1 lap bonus for the fastest lap. Points go from 10 down to 1 for those top 10 positions for this first race, and then the second race of this evening, 30 minutes long, and then 25 points all the way down to 1 point. And of course, again, the top 10 positions will get a bonus point for the fastest lap. Now, Rigo seems to have resolved his issues. This is where he went off last time, wasn't it? At the exit of turn 6. Pulled off to the side of the track and retired for some reason or other. We don't know exactly why, but it seems to be resolved now, and he's now ready to start the grid or launch for the start of this race now in the number 12. Seems to be a large gap between Rigo and the 79, who quickly follows, and the rest of the grid. So this is what we mentioned earlier. This is going to be a problem now for Rigo, because he needs to keep the temperature in those tyres. R-Factor 2 has an amazing tyre model, and it will replicate tyre temperatures very accurately, and he needs to be careful about how quickly he makes his way to this starting grid, because now look at the gap compared to third all the way through to the back of the grid at P15. That is going to be a lot of temperature lost in those tyres, and even now struggling to find his way into the box. So it's an unfortunate way to start there, but yeah, he's going to have a bit of an issue at the start of this race, I predict at least. Let's hope that I'm wrong and he can get away very safely and very quickly into the first corner as the rest of the grid now lines up behind, ready to race. There's the last few cars in the back of the order now, and as we wait for the countdown from race control and get this once and for, started once and for all, sorry, as my English fails me. Marshall raises the green flag, the lights are on, and we are racing, ladies and gents, and Rigo is off. He's off to a very good start indeed. Actually, he's clear completely of any competition as he makes his way into the first corner. Nice send from João Fintas as he makes his way into the first corner, making up several positions in the process. Marcin in the 79 has to go and settle for third as we get a drag race all the way out into turn 3 now. Great overtaking opportunity as we go 2 wide in several places. 3 wide even as they fight over third place. In the background there, Marcin gets pushed onto the outside line, but able to find a bit of traction. We have several cars being pushed wide as one finds its way into the grass. It's one of the advanced competition cars. 3 wide once again, coming down into turn 5. This is the fight for third. Marcin on the outside. Peter Zubek finds himself on the inside on the optional curb. Onto the gravel goes Marcin as he struggles to find a bit of track space and has to concede all 3 positions. Now down into 6th there. Valerio Ferraris being one of the cars that makes its way up into 4th. Francesco in the 15, also taking advantage of the chaos. Sander van Leeuwen all the way down into 7th, so he's lost 1 position since the start, I believe. As we come to the end of our first lap now, Rigo currently leads the pack as we go 2 wide here. Sander van Leeuwen defending against Marcin and taking that position away from him. So P6 now for Sander van Leeuwen, making good headway. Marcin is having a really terrible time here. He's even 2 wide now with Patrick Hanko, who's now starting his charge up the grid. So that's several positions lost. He started from 2nd place, now down into P7 as he loses it coming into turn 1 for the 2nd time. One of the arms cars has to lock up in avoidance and makes his way around the outside. Charging up the hill they go. Marcin continuing to fall back down the order. Unfortunate sight to see, as Luca Martino now makes good headway and through into 8th place here. So not a good time for Marcin since the start of this race. Peter Zubek now overtaking Rigo as he makes contact with Fentus in the 13. Is that onto the gravel there? Was a slight touch of grass as they now fight for the lead. New leader for you, Peter Zubek. Now making good headway and making time. Yeah, he's already 0.7 seconds ahead of the rest of the order. Rigo currently sitting in 2nd place still. Joao Fentus tried to get by but not able to find any space in time to do so. Francesco currently closing in for the kill as well. He's got his eyes set on these top 3 positions as we have a big moment there for Joao as he comes into the final 2 corners. Just manages to wrestle his car back into order. And across the start-finish line we go. Rigo finding himself under further pressure, coming into the braking zone at turn 1. Good opportunity here for Joema as he hits that yellow sausage curb on the exit of the first corner. That's going to unsettle the car, but not enough as he finds good traction on the exit. He's going for the outside line. Onto the grass he goes. This is going to be a really delicate pass indeed. I'm not sure he's been able to pull that off. Oh, and big contact there. That's between Francesco and Joema. Just gets tapped on the back end. Rigo spins out and gets sent it 1 full 180. So he's out of the running for podium positions already. We have Patrick Hanko now fully in the mix in 4th. And then Valerio Ferraris giving chase as well. Patrick Hanko now into 3rd. So that's a really strong recovery drive. Starting from 12th down in the grid. Already into pole positions after just 3 laps. Valerio Ferraris looks down the inside of Joema. Doesn't go too well and he ends up visiting the grass as a result. And this is absolute brilliant overtaking from all involved. Patrick Hanko now under pressure from Joema as they come into the final 2 corners. Big send there into the runoff area. And even the final corner there from Joema. He's trying to find as much time as he can. And he doesn't care if he's going to abuse track limits to do it. Now Patrick Hanko, he's got to apply pressure to the 15 car. So the leader at the moment, Peter Zubek, is pulling away very nicely. Already 4 seconds up the road for Royal Blue Racing. And this is a great fight for 2nd place all the way through to 6th, with Ferraris bringing up the back end in the 35. We have battles going on up and down the order. I'll try and capture as much of it as I can, but it seems that this is the one to watch for the time being. Patrick Hanko closing in for the kill on 2nd place. So 0.7 seconds between the 2 of them. Several positions made. Zubek up by 2. Patrick Hanko, although this is actually incorrect because of course it's basing it on the qualifying results, which of course we know there's been a reverse grid. Oh, big scuff there from Zubek. Or Zubek, where's Zubek? He's disappeared off the face of the earth, it seems. He is currently on the exit of the final corner. It's all gone horribly wrong for Royal Blue Racing here. He's had a great start to this race and fallen completely off the map. Must have had a big issue into the final 2 corners in order for that to happen, but now finds himself all the way down in 10th place. That was a really good drive from the start, but all unfolding in the latter stages. That now gives the lead to Francesco, as he does well to hold off Patrick in the Royal Blue Racing car for the time being. We have a battle on our hands between Valerio Ferraris and Joama in 13, just behind for 3rd. And they are side by side. In fact, as we just switch over to them now, coming through turns 5 at the moment. It was a good send down the inside from Joama as he overtook and claimed back that all-important podium position in this sprint race. And Joama already making up a sizable margin advantage over Valerio, up to 0.8 seconds already. Another battle here for 7th and 8th. This is Lepping and Martino, the 98 and the 77, fighting over 7th place in the standings as sparks fly off Peter Zubek's car as he rides that exit curb. Looks like maybe a send down the inside here from Martino. Not able to close the gap enough to make it work for him though. And now comes the sprint up the hill. Different compounds on these cars, I believe, as they come sprinting once more side by side. Here we go. Nice battle on the braking zone into turn 3. Martino down the inside. Able to make it stick. Yes, he is. So it's a nice overtake there from Luca Martino in the 77. Up by 1 position, 8th place there for the driver. Peter Zubek under pressure from Vadim Steblin as he makes his recovery drive. He's applying pressure, trying to recover as best he can. Advanced Simsport and Royal Blue Racing fighting for position. And what did I say at the start of this race? There's going to be plenty of racing action here at Red Bull Ring. Loads of slipstream opportunities to close those gaps down. That's exactly what we're seeing here right now. We'll look down the inside here from Vadim as he makes the move. Yes, he does. Well done there. And Peter Zubek coming into pit lane for some reason. Not too sure why. Rigo gets past and he goes all the way down into 11th place once again. So further issues for the Royal Blue Racing driver. Maybe serving a penalty, it seems. We'll have to switch over to the fight for the lead. Unfortunately, we can't stay with that as the number 10, Patrick Hanko, closes in once again to Armsiebel Racing. 15, Francesco behind the wheel still, and both making up several positions since the start of this race. Patrick Hanko, according to qualifying, was the fastest of the 2 cars. Let's see if he can actually make the move and take the lead of this race. He is, of course, our championship leader, Patrick Hanko. So he's looking to extend the advantage heading into what is going to be about roughly the halfway point of the season. On board with Hanko at the moment as he comes across the start finishing line. 8 laps now completed in this 15-minute sprint. And a bit of an issue here for Francesco. He goes too deep into the first corner. That's going to compromise the run up the hill. And Patrick Hanko knows it. He's going on the attack. Francesco goes defensive on the outside line as they come up into the braking zone at turn 3. Side by side they go. Patrick Hanko looking for that undercut, but nicely defended from Francesco. Another opportunity will be available on the run down towards Sector 2 though, as Francesco hugs that inside line. That's what he wants to defend. Patrick Hanko on the outside line, still side by side once more. Both cars entering the corner. Here comes the switchback from Patrick Hanko though. He's got a nice early exit out of that particular corner as he gets a better line, but now finds himself on the outside line of turn 6. That's not where he wants to be. Great racing between these two. Plenty of track space given and wheel-to-wheel racing all round. Now Patrick Hanko is still in this fight, 0.5 seconds. We'll quickly switch over to the battle for 6th as that is starting to close in. We have Pavel in the guest car and Luca Martino still recovering nicely in P7. Three-way fight for 5th currently taking place here. We'll keep an eye on the leaders as well, so we don't miss out on that as well. And we'll switch back over to them if they do close up, which I have no doubt. And in fact, they are just closing up now. Once again, charging up the hill here. Francesco and Patrick fighting for the lead of this race. This time, Patrick looking slightly down onto the inside, but no overlap available to make it work. The fight for the lead does continue. Francesco getting a nice exit out of turn 3, though, and increasing that advantage ever so slightly. Puffs of smoke coming from Francesco's car, clearly pushing this Formula 3 to its limits. And let's switch back to this three-way fight for 5th place. Pavel is really starting to close in this gap. Luca Martino also doing the same in P7. On board with Martino then as he closes in for the kill. Pavel also doing the same to Cabello in the 23. Big mistake here from Pavel, though, as he comes into the final 2 corners. Both of the drivers having to brake too much for the final corner. That's going to allow Cabello a bit of breathing space as we are too wide coming into the first corner as we start lap 10 of 15. Martino going around the outside. What an amazing move there from the 77, the Arm Zebra racing car, all the way around the outside of turn 1. Ambitious move, but pulled it off nicely. Still side by side, the fight continues down into turn 3 and gets back underway. Martino defending that inside line. That's exactly where he needed to place that car. But here comes Pavel's canter offer as he slipstreams his way down towards turns 4. Looking for an opening, chooses the racing line. Could see a bit of issues here for Martino as he finds that the left tyres in the gravel. Doesn't seem to compromise the speed too much. And able to navigate the next few corners without any issues. The current leaders are still at least 0.5 seconds adrift from one another, so that gap maintaining itself. And we will just switch over to them as they start their next lap. Francesco got a horrible exit out of that final corner, and here comes Patrick Hanko on the attack. Thinks about going on the inside, but decides to bail out at the final moment. And 5 laps remaining announced by race control. This is one hell of a race. We've had 1 DNF so far in the hands of Maloney, so 1 casualty. But otherwise, spectacular racing up and down the order, it seems. Now, does Patrick have any further tricks up his sleeve to close down this gap? It currently sits at 0.3 seconds. Small puff of smoke there from the 15. Coming into sector 2, but nothing really that Patrick could utilise and take advantage of. Big send from Patrick Hanko, and Francesco doing the same into the final corner. Both cars now start the next lap, lap 12 of 15. Running out of opportunities is Patrick Hanko to take the lead of this race. Francesco's doing an excellent job so far of defending that pole as they now charge their way. Slipstream in effect. This is going to be too wide. Could be a change for the lead here. Royal Blue Racing going on the attack. Arm Zebra Racing defending down the inside as we enter turn 3. They're locking wheels, they're rubbing paint, and it's still side by side as we once again race towards the next set of corners. Turn 4 being the one up next. Francesco hugs that inside line like he has many laps before in order to defend the position. He knows that's the best place to be. And Robbie Racing trying it round the outside. This is a bold move here from Patrick Hanko. Could it work though? He's still got an overlap as we enter the second few corners. Double into the double left-hander, sorry. And they're still side by side. Francesco's at a disadvantage now. Patrick Hanko's got the position, surely. He's got it accelerating out. Patrick Hanko takes the lead at Red Bull Ring for the first sprint race now. And Francesco will have to be demoted to second place, but it's not over yet. Excellent racing and respect given by these two leading drivers. Oh, Francesco's made a big mistake into the final corner. Coming across the start-finish line, Patrick Hanko goes high, almost in celebration for that overtake, it seems, or either that or to cool the tyres. And he's now actually starting to get away very quickly indeed, already up to 1 second over the 15 car. So unless Francesco is able to find that extra bit of pace and maybe cool those tyres down once again and find some composure, it looks like it may be another victory for Patrick Hanko here. We switch over to the battle for fifth though. Cabello and Martino closing together as they fight for some vital points in the championship here in this sprint round. Toyota Gome Sport leading the way for the time being. It's been a great race for Cabello at the moment as they go too wide now. Into the next few corners. Big puffs of smoke. Nice little drift there from Cabello, but that does allow Martino down onto that inside line. And he takes that position away. He's now up into fifth place. Also on a really good race is Vadim Steblin in the number 2. He's actually doing very well for his race this evening, up into 7th place. And then Rigo has found his place in 8th as well. Of course, he was your pole sitter for the first round here this evening. So he will be scoring points, just not anywhere near where he started, unfortunately. Yeah, it looks like the grid is slowly starting to spread out. You've got Vadim Steblin trying his best to close in on Cabello at the moment. The gap's currently sitting at 1.7 seconds between Martino and Cabello, and then Steblin a further 1.3 seconds behind. Yeah, Martino really pushing away into the distance now, so he's already outside of that slipstream and already 2.5 seconds in advantage of Cabello in 6th place. So this is going to be a two-way fight now between Victor and Vadim. We've only just, this is the final lap here, so this is his last final opportunity to make this work as Patrick Hanko now comes through exit of turn 3. We'll keep an eye on that battle as it progresses through this lap, but 1.5 seconds is a large margin to bring to a close in one lap here at the Red Bull Ring, that is for sure. But Patrick Hanko started in 12th place here this evening for the first sprint race. Of course, fastest lap in qualifying, so he will be on pole position for the next race. But what a way to start this evening's event, and we have a potential battle on our hands here between these two. We'll quickly switch over to João Fentis and Luca Martino coming through Sector 2 at the moment. It looks like João is having a few issues. This is 4th place up for grabs here between these two. Gap is closing very quickly indeed. 0.3 seconds coming into the final 2 corners. João holds the inside line into the final 2 right-handers, and he's actually going to defend it very aggressively, touching slightly on those rear wheel tyres. And Martino, having a big moment into the final corner, just manages to save it from going into the barrier as they come across the start-finish line. João holds on to 4th. Luca Martino in P5. Whoa, That is a really strong performance there, but your winner today, Patrick Hanko, for Royal Blue Racing. He will extend his championship lead here this evening already in the first round. 10 points be awarded to that gentleman there. Francesco in the 15 will come home in second place, and then Valerio Ferraris will secure third. So very well done to all involved there. So that is the first race of this evening, ladies and gents. I hope you did enjoy it. That was certainly a spectacle, wasn't it? Plenty of racing action from start to finish, and I did say earlier that the Red Bull Ring is renowned for providing close racing between our competitors here. So let's quickly run through the results for you officially and get those up on the screen for you. So as already mentioned then, Patrick Hanko, Royal Blue Racing, and the number 10 extending that championship lead for the number 10. Then Francesco in the RC Blue Racing. Great fight between those two. But after that overtake, Patrick just seemed to be able to drive away after Francesco just seemed to cook those front tyres. Valerio Ferraris in the 35, the sister RC Blue car in third. So good team result there for them this evening. Drama Fentas in the Toyota Gomesport team, fourth place, and then Luca Martino almost stole that away from him at the line, but that final send into that last corner of the last lap just didn't come together as expected. Victor Cabello in sixth place for Toyota Gomesport, the sister car there with Joema, and then Vadim Steblin for advanced competition in seventh place. P8 goes to Joelem Rigo, so the second of the advanced competition cars there. So they finished on par with one another, so a good team outing for both of those guys. And then ninth place goes to Christian Olari Lepping for the Racing Matters Most team. P10, rounding out those top 10 positions, and the last of the points, I believe, is Xander Van Leeuwen for the Zenkov Racing team. Moving on to the second page then, before we go into our second race of the evening. Marcin had a really terrible race, unfortunately. Of course, he started in second place after qualifying 11th. He comes home in 11th, so maybe exactly where he should have been, but it was a terrible start there. Got overtaken very early on, unfortunately. Peter Zubek for Royal Blue Racing, again running into issues. He was in the lead of the race at early stages, but let it go after his mistake into the final corner. Christian with Racing Matters Most in 13th. Our guest car Pavel in 14th, suffering issues late on in the race. It was a solid race up to about the halfway mark before falling off, and then Alex Maloney unfortunately retiring, and that rounds out your results for the first race of this evening. Well, that was the way to open up this evening's event, wasn't it, ladies and gents? So that is the first race of this evening, the sprint race for round 3 of the ASRC Formula 3 World Series. And of course we are at the wonderful Red Bull Ring with fair weather from start to finish, and we do have one more race for you coming up. That's the feature race, which is 30 minutes long, and we will have a much larger haul of points available for the drivers in this one, starting at 25 all the way down to 1 point. So this is going to be the one that really matters. So the sprint race is almost like a warm-up session. Points still available for the top 10 positions, but of course you really want to haul in those points for the feature race, and that's where the qualifying will matter, and that's why it does matter for these guys despite that reverse grid in the first round. Again, there is bonus points for the fastest lap within the top 10 positions. And we are waiting for our 5-minute warm-up to conclude, and then we will get this back underway for you. So you have been watching, then feel free to comment and what your favourite part of the race was, or if you have any preference on your personal favourite driver, etc. I'm sure you've got many if you are watching this series, and also if you are interested in joining these guys, then all the links are down in the description, live timing included, so if you do like the tactical side of things, what tyre they've taken, what their previous lap times or sector was, you can get all nerdy with that kind of stuff by delving into the live timing. And of course you've got Facebook where you can get in contact with the group, and also a Patreon service where you can donate to keep their servers running and allow them to continue hosting these events and continue racing. And finally, before we go into the next race as well, if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to give us that kind thumbs up. It doesn't just help us, it helps the guys in the league, allows their streams and their races to get more exposure, which they deserve, of course, and hopefully therefore resulting in much larger grids for them. Now, I know I've said this already as we go in, but of course if you're just joining us, we'll quickly touch on the calendar just in case. So of course we are at the Red Bull Ring for today, but next week we visit Silverstone GP and then Nürburgring as well. That rounds up the European phase of the Formula 3 World Series, and then we do indeed go down under to Sydney Motorsport Park and then Melbourne, and then finally the last round taking place in New Zealand. Funny fact about that final round at Pukeko, I think that's pronounced correctly, if not I do apologise, but that circuit is officially closed as of March next year. It's going to be no more motorsport taking place there. I know that because we cover a V8 Super Series where they follow the real calendar, and it is of course known as a horse racetrack as well, and that will be it. They will just simply expand on horse racing. The biggest mistake they could have ever made, personally. Motor racing is the pinnacle for myself and of course all of you watching, as we all love sim racing and everything else, but it's one of those things, isn't it? Things change, unfortunately. I'm sure it will come back in 5 to 10 years when they realise what a big mistake they've made. Hopefully, we'll see. We're just in the final few minutes of the warm-up session though, and of course it will be the grid as per qualifying. So if we just have a look at that in the starting order, this will be how the grid lines up in front of you for this particular round. And it will be Patrick Hanko for Royal Blue Racing on pole position, followed by Luca Martino for Arms Super Racing, Peter Zubek in Royal Blue Racing P3, and then Francesco for the sister car in P4. Sander van Leeuwen in 5th for Zenkov Racing, Pavel in the guest car for P6, Valerio Ferraris in P7, and then Jaume Fentus for Toyota Going Sport in 8th. V9 goes to Vadim Steblin for Advanced Competition, Christian O'Leary Lepping for Racing Matters Most in 10th, Marcin in 11th, and then Guillaume Rigo in 12th. P13 goes to Gabello in the sister Toyota Going Sport car, Alex Maloney in 14th, and then Christian with no surname in 15th. And that is your starting order for the feature race this evening. We are just a few seconds away now. Don't forget to rewind if you are just joining us. Please watch that previous race. It was really something else. Racing from start to finish, that's exactly what we love to see, and I'm sure this race is going to be no different. So one car still out on circuit at the moment, just making a few changes. So once again, the drivers will try their best to make some minor changes in this warm-up session, or at least familiarise themselves and rectify any mistakes. So whatever mistakes they've made in the sprint race just past, they can easily rectify those before we go into the feature race now. And that's of course where the bigger points are available for them this evening. And fingers crossed we won't have anyone disconnect from the server this time by. I believe someone has dropped from the server, so we may be waiting on them to rejoin. Not too sure. We'll keep you posted on that as much as we can. Yeah, we're back to 15 cars now, so that's a good sight to see. And fingers crossed moving over to the race session now. Yes, there's the unforgettable announcement by the R-Factor 2 director as he screams at the top of his voice for everyone to leave the grid as we get ready for our main feature of this evening. So Patrick Hanko taking victory to extend his championship lead now. He should be on 54 points in the standings, currently 44 at the end of the final round at Okinawa. Or Okayama, sorry, what did I say? Sorry, Okayama, my apologies. English does fail me sometimes. As we wait for the grid to line up for the 30-minute race here. It's 23 laps instead of 15 this time. Which just means for us as spectators, more chances for overtakes, which is what we love to see, isn't it? And we've seen plenty of that already in the first race, so hopefully we will see yet more of that. And of course, what will be a larger factor as well is the looking after of the tyres. Those compound tyres will start to struggle as we get to the end of this race, I'm sure, especially with all the high-speed corners here available at the Red Bull Ring. That will chew through these slicks in no time. And the grid now lining up. We will soon start the warm-up lap, and Patrick Hanko this time will lead the grid into the start of the race as we get going. Once again, very important to warm these tyres up as much as possible for the start of the race. We've got yellow compound tyres, which are mediums, if I'm not mistaken. And the reds reflecting soft compound. It's almost like the old days of Formula 1, isn't it? And you can already see just by looking at the tyre walls that people have taken different compound tyres for this race, which just goes to show what they're expecting to happen in respect of tyre wear and degradation. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, who drops off on pace perhaps, or who struggles to maintain pace. Maybe they've chosen the wrong tyre. Perhaps it's Ferrari all over again, where they put the hard compounds on when they're the slowest one available. Who knows? It'll take a few laps for them to get to their operating temperatures, of course. And then time will tell if they've made the right choice. Navigating his way around the next few corners though. Just going to bring up the starting order onto your screen now as they make their way through the final few corners there. So Patrick Hanko starting on pole position, Martino close behind, and Peter Zubek and Francesco P4. And I'll let the rest just go on by as we've already run through it earlier on before going into the session, but feel free to read it in your own time as Patrick Hanko now lines up onto the start of the grid. Large gap between him and second place, so he's got to be careful about those tyre temperatures. Doesn't want them to be stone cold when we go racing for the final time this evening. Rest of the grid coming up close behind and finding their way into their starting boxes. 23 laps here at the Red Bull Ring for round 3 of the ASRC Formula 3 World Series. We'll wait for the marshal to wave the green flag at the back and for the lights to come on. We seem to be missing one car in the centre there. As the lights are on, the countdown begins and we are off. Patrick Hanko on the starting grid front row, side by side with Luca Martino, who's in second place. They all find their way through turn 1. It's a big send there from Francesco in 4th place. He tried to make the move to take the battle to Peter Zubek early on, but it didn't work out. Now slipstreaming their way up the hill towards turn 3. Are we going to see attack here as Patrick Hanko goes defensive? In fact, both Royal Blue racing cars go defensive, and in fact this could be a really good way to take this second place away from Martino here for Peter Zubek as he tries to find some track space. Not enough though, as they both go back into their original positions. Heavy braking down into the corner. Looks like Peter Zubek's up on the inside. He's taken second place away from Luca Martino, who goes deep into turn 4. Not able to get those cold tyres up at temperature and to work in the way that he wants. And into second place goes Peter Zubek. Great way to start his race. So I think we have all 3 Arms cars. Yes, we do. All 3 Arms cars teammates, as there's a battle just in the background there between Joan Fuentes and Sander van Leeuwen side by side coming into that second to last penultimate corner. Sander van Leeuwen up the inside into the final corner, takes that position away. Nice manoeuvre there as he takes P6 in this race. Here comes the comeback though from Joan Fuentes. They are still side by side. Pavel in the guest car close behind in 8th as they all make their way up the hill once again. Could be an overtake here from Pavel as he comes down the inside. Yes, he does. Sends the car completely up into the braking zone. Nicely slowed down, in fact. He makes the corner almost perfectly, but Joan cuts back onto the inside, and now it's a drag race towards turn 4. Joan defending on the inside. He's going to have the advantage, of course, to look after that 7th place. Pavel looks for the switchback, but not enough speed to make that work. Here comes Peter Zubek, a fight for the lead between our 2 Royal Blue Racing teammates. So Peter Zubek actually taking the lead from his teammate Patrick Hanko there. We saw the back end of that particular overtake through turn 7. So bit of issues there between the Royal Blue guys. There's no team orders or anything. So battle is allowed to ensue. Luca Martino also under pressure from his teammate Francesco close behind in that podium position in 3rd. So through the first corner they go. It is going to be a potential overtake here for Francesco. Depends on how the team orders work. I know each team is different, but like Luca Martino currently holding on to 3rd place ahead of his teammate. There's a new best lap time from Zubek. So Royal Blue Racing pulling away from the rest of the field at the moment as he starts to set that pace. It's worth noting as well that Zubek is on the faster tyre for the start of this race. Patrick Hanko has opted for a slower compound for this particular long endurance race. So although Zubek may be faster at the moment, we'll have to keep an eye on how that pace is maintained by Zubek and if it dies off in any way. Luca Martino as well closing in for the kill on Hanko. He's definitely got a slight pace advantage as they come into the final sector, but yes, at least 0.5 seconds faster last time by here for the 77. And there's literally overtakes happening left, right and centre. I can't capture everything, unfortunately, as they come into turn 1. Joan Fuentes trying to hold off Pavel as we come up towards turn 3. That slipstream fully in effect as they do battle for 7th place. Pavel down the inside, both side by side as they come into the braking zone. Looking for the switchback is Raymer, and he is able to do so in the Toyota Gome Sport. So nice defensive driving there from the 13. And they are still side by side even now as they come into the next set of braking corners, but Joema able to close the door. Just slightly up ahead in 6th place, Sander van Leeuwen is applying pressure to Ferraris for 5th place. So the last of the Arms Zebra cars starting to come under a bit of pressure now as those tyres come up to temperature. .6 seconds between these guys coming into the next lap. 20 laps remaining, 5 already completed. It's a very quick lap here at Red Bull Ring. Big off there for Ferraris in the 35 coming into the exit of the first corner. This could be an opportunity for Sanders. The gap is closing down quite quickly. Is he going to have a look down the inside? The car's placed very nicely indeed. He's making the move. Contact's made between the two of them though. No harm done as they return to their original positions. Bit of loss of time there for Ferraris, but both maintain the status quo. Now Joama has able to hold off Pavel at the moment, but here comes Antonis in the 16, so he's going to make the overtake there on the guest driver for the evening. Up into 8th place goes these two. There's a slight overlap coming into turn 6, a bit of touching of the tyres as well for good measure, but both able to make it through the next set of corners without any further dramas. Great racing once again at the start of the second race, and Joama has a big puff of smoke coming from those tyres. He's locked up completely. That's going to put him at a disadvantage. Here comes Antonis into the first corner, fighting for 8th place. Here we go. And even if he is able to hold it for this particular corner, he's going to be mightily exposed on the way up to turn 3. The slipstream now coming into effect. You can see already closing quite quickly indeed. He's going to go too wide. Down the inside goes Antonis, and he's going to go deep into the corner. Here comes a big defensive move from Joama, and Pavel tries to open the door down the inside. Contact's made between the two of them. But Joama, I don't know how, but Joama has taken back the position from Antonis, who got a really bad exit out of the third corner. Big sand down the inside, once again taking the position back. They are switching positions every single corner so far of this particular lap. Great stuff. On board with Joama. And across the start finishing line now. Lost a bit of time, 0.7 seconds to Antonis ahead. So we'll switch over to another battle here for second place. Patrick Hanko, Luca Martino fighting over second place now. Peter Zubek is just ahead by 2 seconds. So those different compounds now starting to take effect. So Zubek able to pull away ever so slightly. Luca Martino though is also on the softer compound. So he wants to be able to overtake Patrick as soon as possible and make haste and gain that advantage as early as possible. There goes your leader past the screen, Peter Zubek. As we enter the final 2 corners here. That gap is very close indeed, closing as we come across the start-finish line. They go high to avoid or confuse the slipstream. And now once again charging up the hill, the slipstream, allowing Martino to close in yet again. Bit of sideways lock there for Luca as he tries to get back into gear. Looks like Hanko is running out of tricks now. Oh, he's running wide in the entry to turn 4. Oh, and Patrick does the same. Oh, sorry, Luca does the same as he goes onto the gravel. That's going to cost him a 10th or 2 in his pursuit of second place. And we will come back to this battle in a short while because the fight for 8th is in full swing. 0.3 seconds between Pavel and Antonis, and also Joama as well. So a 3-way fight for 7th currently taking place further back down the grid. Also got Cabello starting to close in as well. He makes a big send into the final corner, eats some of the curve for good measure before continuing on. Oh, Pavel having a few issues, running wide on the exit of turn 1. That's going to open the door for Antonis. Could we see a send down the inside? That is the question. Oh, and we do. Here comes Pavel. He's applying some pressure now to Zrema. He takes the position. There's a bit of bumping and barging. That forces Zrema wide slightly off the racing line. And that's position 7 now in his control. Oh, big contact between Zrema and Pavel. Applying the brakes just slightly earlier than anticipated. And Zrema completely runs into the back of Pavel's car. Both go off, and Zrema's having... Oh, and there's a bit more contact between the two of them. Very dramatic indeed. Pavel's going very slowly on the side of the circuit. Not too sure if that was retaliation or just a racing incident. Very hard to judge from the camera angle that we had. But Pavel continuing on. And it looks like that may be the end of Zrema's race. Whereas he at the moment, he's making his way towards pit lane. He will have to go in for repairs. That car has no front downforce whatsoever. Back to the lead of the race. This is where all the points are. And Patrick Hanko and Luca Martino still 0.8 seconds between them. Patrick Hanko's doing a really fantastic job of holding Luca behind for the time being, considering again that the tyre compounds are different. Luca should certainly be closing this down, but maybe suffering from some dirty air and losing front grip as a result. That's going to increase that tyre degradation for those softer compound tyres. So close between our front running teams now. Patrick Hanko actually starting to close in on leader and teammate Peter Zubek now. 1.5 seconds between them to come into the next flying lap. Lap 11 of 23. So we're almost at the halfway point of our second event. Here come Francesco and Sander van Leeuwen. Here comes Leeuwen down on the inside. Oh, and there's a big contact between the two of them. Sanders goes smashing into the barrier at full speed. He's lost rear wing. Surely the engine's quite surprised that car is still running, to be honest. That was a big send. Looks like he went for the inside line, which was quickly closed by Francesco. That may have caught him off guard, and as a result, just wasn't able to apply the brakes and get out of the way in time. That's a big send into the barrier there, and sadly the end of Leeuwen's race. Now, I don't know if Francesco will have to pit for repairs or not, but that's taking him out of the fight for third place. He's at least 3 seconds adrift now, and that is extending quite dramatically as our top three now run through the final few corners. Great racing between these three. No mistakes so far from anyone involved. Touch wood, not to give them the commentator's curse, of course. And they've just got to survive another 12 laps before getting to the end of this race, as we are now officially halfway through this evening's feature race. Great battle between these two now. So Rigo and the guest car Pavel going tooth and nail into the final two corners. Fight for 10th place and those final few points that are available. Now Pavel was the faster of the two cars in qualifying, so let's see how he does to overtake Rigo. Coming into the first corner now. He will be at a disadvantage. Of course, no slipstream for the advanced competition car as it tries to defend. Pavel looking towards the outside, or the inside now, sorry, as they come into the braking zone at turn 3. Here's a slight overlap available between the two of them. No contact made, but both starting to really power down towards sector 2. Looks like Pavel may have the advantage as he comes down to the inside line once again. That's going to give him a better track position to overtake the position, and he does. Slight switchback attempt here from Rigo, but just a bit too slow of getting that power down, but still great overtaking between those two. Back to our leaders, Peter Zubek, Patrick Hanko, both Royal Blue Racing cars, potentially about to do battle here. It looks like Patrick Hanko chose very wisely. Oh, what happened to Martino? Where is Martino? Because he was giving chase, wasn't he? But he's disappeared off. He's actually DNF'd. Unfortunately, we have another retirement. The 77, Luca Martino, who is fighting and applying pressure to the Royal Blue Racing team, has sadly retired from this race. Very big shame indeed. He actually had the fastest lap of the evening as well. And that just leaves Zubek and Hanko up front to do battle between each other. So it's going to be team orders or let them all break loose and do battle with one another. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, two different tyres being used here. And potentially Zubek starting to struggle as he seizes that front left tyre coming into the penultimate corner. On board with Patrick now as he makes his way through the first corner once more. 14 laps completed. And he does have that slipstream, 0.5 seconds just shy of his teammate as they come storming up towards turn 3. And that gap is certainly closing indeed, already 0.2 seconds closer than last time we looked. So Hanko certainly has the advantage, it seems, in the latter stage of this race. Oh, bit of a send there from Patrick into the penultimate corner. Use the runoff area to avoid it from expanding into anything too serious. That's cost him a bit of time though. An extra 2 attempts back into the negative to Zubek. This could be the opportunity he's been waiting for though. 0.4 seconds and closing in. 0.3, 0.2 seconds coming into the braking zone at turn 3. He'll be able to close even further as we run towards sector 2 as well. The gap currently back up to P5. It's a really good exit by Zubek there. Entering the final 2 corners, these guys are pretty much on par with one another as they come across the start finishing line once more. Last lap times for you. Let's see who has the advantage for the time being. Zubek comes across 18.5 with Hanko 18.2. So both within 2 tenths of one another in terms of lap by lap pace. But Hanko now closing in 0.3 seconds. He's much closer this time as the slipstream does its work. Slicing down that advantage as much as possible as he goes side by side with his teammate on the outside. This time Zubek defending as much as he can and still able to retain the lead. So certainly challenging for the lead of this race is Patrick, and Peter will have to go for the inside line once again on the approach to turn 4. Defending quite nicely. Hanko tries to open the door around the outside, but not enough track space to make that work. Certainly not enough grip on this part of the track, that's for sure. Through turns 6 and 7, handled very nicely. Zubek and his better tyres seeming to provide a bit of breathing room for the time being. 0.5 seconds once again as they come down into the final few corners. And we are trying to see if there's any further battles. We have, unfortunately, another retirement in this race. Rigo in the number 12, that's for advanced competition, that has retired as well, leaving us with 10 running cars for this particular race. A bit of use of your yellow curb, that's going to hurt Patrick there on his attempts to close that gap down, which it does. Only 0.6 seconds, much further back this time. And there's no hope of making an overtaking move on this particular lap. There is a battle that is starting to close down for 6th place. That's Cabello in the 23 and Vadim Steblin, and that is for 6th place. They are 1 second shy of one another, and we'll keep an eye on that one as much as we can. And Cabello having a great race so far since the start of this particular round. He's up by 7 positions, in fact, since the start of the race, so we'll keep an eye on that as that unfolds, as he's doing well to score some major points here in the second race. And Patrick now 0.8 seconds behind his teammate, so Zubek starting to really find some solid pace. He was 0.3 faster than his teammate that last time by. And we're now entering probably the last 5 laps here of this second race, so running out of opportunities to overtake his teammate and take yet another victory for Team Royal Blue Racing. It's going to be a 1-2 as it is anyway, provided they don't crash together, which isn't unheard of. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's have a quick look at this battle for 6th place then. That is closing together quite quickly. Let's have a look quick. Hanko nearly going into the gravel trap there. Manages to prevent it from doing so, but has to scrub off a bit of speed in the process to stop that from happening. This is Advanced Competition and Toyota Gomesport doing battle for 6th now, with 5 laps officially remaining. On board with Steblin as he comes into the final 2 corners. Is he going to be able to close this gap down, eating a lot of curb at the penultimate corner, and the same for the last corner as well. In the meantime, Cabello goes completely wide at the exit of the last corner. And starting the next lap. Oh, a bit too aggressive there for Vadim. He goes completely wide on the exit of turn 1, but he is able to make advantage and close in the gap, because Cabello had an awful corner as well. Here comes the attack then, looking down the inside ever so slightly is the number 2. Oh, bit of seizure of the tyres as he tries to find a bit more space. No contact made, but both still carrying on. 0.6 seconds between them as they make their way down into the second sector. Another fight that's starting to come together is Lepping and Ivashkin for 8th place, so we'll keep an eye on that one as well. And it looks like we are back to the battle for the lead of the race. Zubik defends against teammate Hanko and defends the inside line into the 3rd corner. Hanko struggles to get the power down, however gets a nice exit as he gets that car checked just in time. Defensive maneuver here from Zubek as he goes down onto the low side, which will be the inside line for turn 4. Great overtaking throughout all of the race at this particular corner, and they are still side by side. Royal Blue Racing battling for the lead here. On board with Patrick now. Love to see teammates chucking team orders out of the window. We love to see a good battle, especially when it's for the lead. And also we have another battle that's just coming together as well. Cabello defending against Steblin. And looks like the switchback was attempted, but not enough track space, unfortunately. The door just wasn't open. Here comes a big move from Steblin down the inside into turn 6. That's a bold move. Doesn't see many overtakes occur there. Doesn't make it work. Cabello still defending and retaining that 6th place position. We'll switch back to the lead once again because the slipstream is once more taking place, cutting through that advantage that his teammate Zubek maintains. Side by side, round the outside goes his teammate, once again looking for that undercut, but Zubek holds it off and goes down low to defend once more. Still side by side. Hanko going very deep into the braking zone. They are still side by side, even now through the corner. Has Hanko done it? He's got his car slightly ahead. The nose cone is in favour here for Patrick Hanko. He's going to have the inside line into turn 6. They are still side by side. Zubek holds the outside line and retakes the lead. Switching over to this battle now. This is Ivashkan and also Lepping going tooth and nail there. This is Racing Matters Most and also the guest car going tooth and nail. This is a fight for 8th place between these two. We're going to switch back from battle to battle, it seems, before getting to the checker flag here with 2 laps remaining. The 98 down the inside into turn 4. He will take that position. However, Pavel's got the inside line for the next corner, and that's going to be the one that matters most as we swing left at speed, and he will take that 8th place back. And back to the battle for the lead once again. We will have to keep doing this, ladies and gents. We'll try and capture as much as we can. Zubak still once again holding off teammate Hanko for the time being as they fight for the last few times. Final few opportunities here for Patrick to overtake Peter. Closing that gap down. So sitting currently at 0.5 seconds at the moment. Coming into the final few corners as we start our last lap, ladies and gents. So this is the final chance for Patrick to do some damage and take the lead of this race. Over the start finishing line one final time. That turn 1 is vital here for Zubek. He needs to make sure he gets a good exit, which he does. The gap 0.4 seconds and closing. Will it be enough here for Patrick to take the lead of the race? It will be a defensive move from Peter, slightly squeezing his teammate onto the outside line. Here comes that switchback. Zubek gets off to a really bad exit. Coming off turn 3, this has allowed the opening to occur for Patrick. Could we see an overtake on the last lap, ladies and gents, between the 2 Royal Blue Racing cars? Peter Zubek gets slightly deeper onto the braking zone. Peter's on the inside. Both are back up to speed. Peter will hold the inside line for turn 6. He's cleared his teammate for that vital position. This is crucial. Those 2 corners were vital to securing victory here. I believe now Zubek may just have pinched victory from his teammate. There's puffs of smoke coming off Patrick Hanko's car as he tries to navigate his way around turn 6 and 7 into the final 2 corners now. Peter Zubek will take the last 2 corners from the lead over his teammate, it seems. And across into the final corner. What a race that has been here for Peter Zubek. He comes across the start-finish line now. Or sorry, this is the last lap. This is the last lap. My apologies, my overlay has been lying to me. It said that lap 23 of 23. That is incorrect. This is the last lap. No, it is the checkered flag. I don't know what my overlay is telling me. I do apologise for that. That is a bit bizarre. But yes, Peter Zubek does take victory. The checkered flag has been flown, even though my overlay says it's the last lap. That is very weird. But Patrick Hanko did everything he possibly could to overtake his teammate in those final few laps. But just wasn't enough. Great racing, great defending from Zubek in those final few moments. The P3 will go to Valerio Ferraris for the ARMS Seabrook Racing Team, and he will be joined by also Antonius in P4. So something happened to the sister car close behind. So they will secure one podium position, but it's not a third and fourth place finish for both the ARMS cars as they make their way around those final few corners. We still have a few cars making their way across the start finishing line now. Drama Fentus having a rough end to his race after a few issues earlier on. But that is the final race of this evening, ladies and gents. I hope you did enjoy as much as we did, because that is one way to end this evening, isn't it? But let's quickly one last time run through the results for the Red Bull Ring. So you've just been watching the second event for round 3 of the ASRC Formula 3 World Series. And let's have a look at the race results for you. Let's bring those up right now. So Peter Zubek beating his teammate by the skin of his teeth for victory here in the second round. That's 25 points to his championship hopes, and Patrick Hanko will do well to expand on his championship lead as he sits first place in the standings for the time being. Valerio Ferraris in the ARMS Seba racing car come home in third, and then Antonis in the Scuderia Kappa racing team comes home in fourth. Francesco in the sister ARMS Seba car comes home in P5, and then we have Victor Cabello for Toyota Gome Sport P6. Vadim Steblin for Advanced Competition, solid race for them in P7, and then we have Pavel Ivashkin in 8th. Christian Aliri Lepping in P9, and then rounding out those top 10 positions is Joama Fentis. And then moving over to the next page, unfortunately it's a list of DNF. We did have a few retirements on this slightly longer race. Rigo from Advanced Competition retiring later on, and Luca Martino, not too sure what happened to that particular driver, but he did retire early on, or in the at least halfway mark of this race in style. Xander Van Leeuwen, Zenkov Racing in P13. We had a great race between those two. He was making good ground and attacking P3 at the time when the two came together, and he went off in a big way into the barrier at turn 3. And then Christian for Racing Matters Most rounding up your last remaining position. All sadly not scoring any points due to those DNFs. Now Luca Martino scored the fastest lap of the race. So not too sure if he will get a bonus point for that if he retired. I'm not fully aware of the regulations in that sense. But he did have the fastest lap of the race, 1:17.392 for you on the board. And that is the end of the Red Bull Ring coverage from us here at CFS. So once again, if you have enjoyed, then please don't hesitate to give the stream a thumbs up. It gives these guys a bit more exposure, and hopefully you can join them in. If you are interested, just simply look down in the description. You've got their Discord, live timing, Facebook, and you can get in touch with those guys and hopefully join in on the action. They've also got tomorrow starting a classic Formula 1 series, which we will also be covering for them, starting off at Sao Paulo. So if you do enjoy your open wheel racing, make sure you stay tuned and tune in at 1800 GMT tomorrow to see how that all kicks off. That's it for us here at the European circuit of Red Bull Ring though. Next week we'll be heading to the Silverstone GP where the action continues, so hopefully we will see plenty more racing action. If you need to get in contact with us for anything, you can find our details at the bottom of the stream as well. Checkered Flag Simsports, you can visit our website, make inquiries. We'll be happy to help you with whatever you need. But it's been great racing action here at the Red Bull Ring, both the sprint race and the feature race as well. Plenty of action from start to finish on both these events. So if you have missed the action, or if you're just joining us, I highly recommend tuning back, rewind that button on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching, and make sure you watch some of these overtakes. Very spectacular to watch indeed. But from us here, we will sign off. We'll leave you to your evening. Take care out there, and thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.